Have you ever had to man an observation post? Ever infiltrated into a non-permissive environment, traveling overland under cover of darkness in order to penetrate the defenses of an enemy position? Have you ever had to sneak and peek and then snoop and poop deep behind enemy lines somewhere to gather intelligence and recon an area? Well, if you have, then this video isn't for you, okay? What this video will be for is for detailing just a little of how something like all that might be done in the real world leading up to collapse for my regular folks out there, all right? Our purposes here will be relatively the same, okay? Sneaking and peeking where we aren't necessarily welcome, but in the civilian world, all that tactical stuff isn't really necessary. And in fact, a lot of it is counterproductive, okay? Today we're just going to get a look at how I gear up myself for a little run into the civilian equivalent of hostile territory. And we're also going to go over a few basic rules for not getting caught yourself when you're doing your own explorations and recon patrols. So stick around and welcome to the Wasteland. Hey everyone, this is Chris and you are watching Wasteland by Wednesday. Now today I'm just getting prepped to do a little minor infiltration exercise later. And before I go further with that, let me just say that this video is not meant for my Black Ops ninjas out there, okay? This is for civvies, all right? Civvies out taking a look around where the only other opposing force is other civvies, all right? Other civilians. I don't need you operators down in the comments tearing me apart about it and shitting on my tactics, okay? This is more for my new collapse preppers out there, the ones who may just be starting to get to know their own area of operations. Remember, we talked about that in my bug out planning series, the need to be intimately familiar with the backcountry and surroundings where you plan to retreat to in the event of a societal collapse event. Now, that means exploration, all right, and that can mean well, that can mean a lot of things, okay? But the main idea is that no matter what kind of area is around your planned bug out location or even your route to your bug out location, you still need to know about it and you need to scout it out really well, all right? Sometimes that means you may have to stay unnoticed as you do so. And so in the interest of helping all of you avoid any imperial entanglements, I'm going to share a few tidbits and tactics regarding stealth as it applies to exploring in the civilian peacetime world. Now, for me today, I'm getting ready to do, like I said, a sneak and peek. Okay, this has to do with a location that I'll be featuring in my upcoming Wasteland Spotlight video. One of them. This is a place that I've kept an eye on for quite some time. Mostly because it represents one of the largest and most significant piles of materials and resources out there around in my general area of operations, okay? And it also sits in a very strategic location as far as my AO goes. Now, anyone who was to set up out there post-collapse, they would be a force to be reckoned with, all right? And since it would be my own group that would have to end up getting stuck with that reckoning, we keep an eye on the place. Recently, I have gotten some reports of some special activity there from several sources, one of which is a highly trusted source that's still out wearing the uniform down at the NTC. That's the National Training Center. Go Google that if you must. But anyway, these reports are regarding a lot of large but still commercial drones that are out in the area. Now, this place has been filmed before by other YouTubers, so drones wouldn't be entirely out of the ordinary, especially since no YouTuber has yet demonstrated the testicular fortitude needed to go inside and film on foot. But my reports indicate drones that are oversized enterprise-level drones, okay? And that's usually pretty much beyond the scope of entertainment purposes. Now, that is obviously of interest to me and to my group, so now I'm going to go do a recon of the location. And while I do so, I might as well feature a cool Wasteland Spotlight of it, right? Show off a little of my own fortitude. So yes, I will be going inside to show you something that you have never seen before, not on YouTube or anywhere else, at least not that I can find. And that will be the video that follows after this one. This video is just, it's just kind of about the prep for such a recon mission, all right? And some of the basic principles you should know before thinking about doing your own type of mission like that somewhere in your own backyard, all right? The short story for this trip is that I'll be spending pretty much an entire day and then an evening heading across the desert up into the mountains to get to an old observation post that I had set up a long time ago, like 2 years ago we set the thing up. All right, and from there I'll be doing a day of scouting and such around the area, and then I'll be coming back on the third day, the end of the third day. Easy peasy, quick trip, okay? Now, since I can almost feel some of the rules lawyers out there cracking their knuckles and getting ready to keyboard warrior the hell out of my comment section, let me kind of preface the rest of this video by saying a few things about, you know, what's really happening here. Okay, the land that I'm going to be transiting across is public land. Okay, federal public lands. Administered by the federal government under the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management. Now, nobody other than the BLM has the authority to try and restrict my passage across this land or interfere in my lawful actions. The place that I'm going to on the other side of that land is an abandoned location just like any other, all right? And that place is sitting in a gray area that I'm willing to deal with. That being said, there are other parties who currently make use of some of the land around the area. One in particular under contract for a massive desert solar facility, all right? And they'll definitely be interested in why I'm crossing through the area, and they'll probably want to try and turn me back if I'm picked up by attracting their attention. It would be an overstep on their part to do so, but they always try because very few people are actually well versed in the laws regarding what can and cannot be done on public land. You know, even mining companies with mining claims out on public federal lands, they can't prevent you from transiting through if you have legitimate business. At any rate, the authorities of the smaller-minded variety may get involved, and that is bad for the mission, okay? And while I'm confident that I would win out in any courtroom if there were some kind of infraction, one of the guiding principles of my entire life has been avoiding courtrooms entirely. Ergo, I will sneak for my peak, okay? So I am a civilian. Those across my path are also civilians, and nothing bad will happen here, all right? It does, however, make for an excellent exercise, an opportunity to get out and play cat and mouse with an actual opposing force, and that's always good training. Besides, this is the deep desert, all right, and not all that far from the Mexican border, so one never knows who is watching or moving around out there. So a little stealth is never a bad thing. To that end, I wanted to take this opportunity to go over a few basic ideas for operating in what's called a semi-permissive or restrictive environment. That's a fancy way of saying that it's a place where you aren't very welcome, okay? There is an opposing force with an interest in keeping you out and away from whatever their operations happen to be, okay? And they will not permit you access, all right? So we're not talking about true non-permissive environments here. You know, nobody is manning any foxholes or gun nests out there, all right? Again, this isn't a war zone or something. But basic principles can still be extremely helpful to learn, okay? Especially in preparing for any kind of a bug out situation and the fact that you're probably going to have to live out there permanently, right? Wherever your location happens to be. Now, at such a time as that bug out becomes necessary, you will certainly want to avoid being followed or prevented from reaching your destination. All right? In addition, you may have to cross areas that are not particularly welcoming to outsiders during a crisis, or even avoid potentially hostile people. So getting some real-world experience with countering area denial assets, even in a moderate or lenient setting like this, that can still be very valuable. All right, and there ain't nothing to it but to do it, all right? And again, this whole video and all this stuff, this isn't for my snoop and poop ninjas out there who used to do this in uniform, all right? This is for my regular guys, all right? The ones that have never snuck up on anything more serious than a cheesecake their wife told them to stay the hell out of. So everyone should learn a little bit about stealth travel through hostile areas, and a little experience goes a long way. Now, that being said, I am of the opinion that as long as I am not breaking the ordinances of any local, state, or federal entities, the company or corporate rules and policies of other entities, those mean fuck all, okay? Plain and simple. So the game here is to get across a large patch of land, reach an observation post, complete some observation and recon of the area, then do a brief insertion for a close-up recon, and then exfiltrate the area without making anyone else aware that I have done these things, okay? That's the mission. Now, I am afraid that I am going to break with some of the prepper YouTube traditions here, okay? You see, I'm not going to be doing all this wearing camo, you know, humping an AR and chest rig with 9 spare mags, all right? If you're hoping to see someone running around in full battle rattle talking about training to take on the world after collapse, well, this isn't the channel for that. For example, the role of camouflage, all right, in general, the role of camouflage is to help conceal your presence from the opposing force, making you harder to detect and all that. But there's more to it than just that, right? Because it also means to help you avoid standing out and attracting attention. Now, if someone were to detect my presence along this route, looking like I do now, right? There's a chance that I'll simply be dismissed as uninteresting, okay, and not a threat. Just another hiker or backpacker out in the desert, freely traversing the public lands of this great nation, all right? However, if I was porting a rifle and an Alice pack while wearing chocolate chip military BDUs, yeah, I would instantly be worthy of a much closer look, okay? And then the area would become much less permissible. So that's what I mean about camouflage, all right? Sometimes camouflage is just looking normal. This isn't Afghanistan, all right? This is the United States. You want to blend in, and a combat loadout from Uncle Sam's Army Surplus Depot doesn't help with that. Now, when it comes to a practical application of camouflage techniques, really you can accomplish almost as much with regular clothing as you can with actual camo. All right, I just need to do a few things. I need to blend into the desert landscape, and that can be handled by wearing similar colors. All right, again, this isn't a close contact thing. I'm looking to avoid detection from a long distance, all right? And out here, you know, in the desert, these colors are more than good enough. Other aspects of my camouflage will be the elimination of anything shiny that could throw a glare or reflection, and, you know, then there'll be my own movement discipline to avoid creating any kind of dust cloud. All right, out there in the desert, looking for people has a lot to do with movement and reflection, okay? You reduce or eliminate those, and you do a lot to make yourself more stealthy right off the bat. So another aspect of my stealth out there, like I said, movement discipline, that's managing my lost, LOST, or line of sight to the target, all right? If I can see them, then they can potentially see me. So I want to utilize the terrain features to block the line of sight between me and the target area. All right, cover and concealment are important, and so I'll constantly seek to put obstacles between me and the position of the opposing force. All right, foliage is good, especially sticking to lower lands that place me down below the horizon. This means that rather than take a shorter path over a hill, I'll have to hump my happy ass the long way around the base of it, using the hill for cover. All right. In other areas, especially out in the desert, one of the best things to use is the many little dry stream beds and flood channels that are made by the rains out here. All right. Getting down into these helps conceal you quite a bit. I'll use those extensively on this trip. So when you are trying to remain undetected, you have to take extra care in how you travel across the landscape. Like I said, usually almost anywhere you're going, there's going to be an easy way, and then there's going to be a whole slew of not so easy ways. All right? Remember to never take the easy way to wherever you're going. Just as predators watch established game trails looking for animals, so do human predators watch roads, trails, and easy paths across terrain. All right? That's where they will expect you to be, so you shouldn't be there, ever. All right? Take the hard way every time in all things. Now, I do have one bit of actual camouflage at work here, all right? And that's going to be this, this camo netting, which will go over the vehicle. But that's going to be left far behind friendly lines out in the desert, all right? Now again, we're looking primarily to avoid detection from a very long range, all right? Netting like that wouldn't do much at all to hide a vehicle from others passing close by, hikers, whatever. However, with the vehicle stationary and reflective surfaces taped over and then covered with the netting, anyone looking through field glasses from far off would have a much harder time spotting it. Same for a distant drone on the horizon out scanning the desert, all right? It might see a shape, but it's going to look like a rock, a hump of dirt, whatever. It's not going to draw the attention for a closer inspection, okay? And that's the idea behind the netting. And yes, I know my ninjas, I can hear you, okay? I can hear you objecting out there. But again, I'm not trying to hide from the US military out here, all right? I'm hiding from a civilian force with very little training or experience in finding people who don't want to be found. It is also highly unlikely that they have access to expensive thermal sensors and such like that, although with expensive drones possibly at play, that could be an issue. And that's one that I'll have to deal with on the fly. It is worth noting that even getting caught out here, it gives away a great amount of intelligence to me. Okay, I'll be able to get an idea of how I was detected, and that can help tell me who did the detecting, and also give me an indication of how seriously they're taking security out here. If it turns out to be they are taking it serious, that raises the question of why. You know, some abandoned mine or ghost town or whatever doesn't need protecting unless something very interesting is happening. And when there's something interesting happening, I become interested. Anyway, when it comes to the netting and the vehicle, the idea is just leaving it behind a little less noticeable than it was. That's all. If somebody notices an empty vehicle just sitting out there, even miles away from any objective, that'll raise questions about where the occupants went. All right, and raising questions is one of those things we avoid at all costs, right? Okay. Anyway, I do want to do a quick talk about loadout. All right, loadout choices. Now, the guiding principle here is to be light, fast, and durable. Okay, we can start with you know, food and water. Now, food supplies are going to be of the ready-to-eat variety. We're going to focus on being good energy foods for a short trip. All right, mostly energy bars, Cliff bars, that sort of thing. I do want to have a decent meal or two out there, and for that I have a little variation of one of my own MRE things here with the walking tamales that I can't get enough of. You know, 2 of those with some bean and corn packs, and I have a nice little 750 calorie meal. All right. In addition to that, I am going to pack one actual MRE from an older stash that is in our try to eat it soon pile. All right, something people tend to pack too much of is food. All right, you can actually go quite a bit of time without eating a 5-course meal. All right, and you know, most of us are carrying a little extra supply around anyway. You need to stay alive and to have energy for the mission. All right, so you eat well before you go, and then you carry very little. This is going to be more of like an assault pack than some kind of sustainment pack. All right. Also, no cooking out there. Okay, no fires. Fire is all bad for stealth. All right, you're making a light, you're making a bright thermal bloom, smoke, deliciously inviting smells. None of those are a good thing. Okay, so no fire. And speaking of the pack itself, you know, nothing tactical. All right, no tactical. No molly webbing, no military camo pattern, no obvious combat gear hanging off the outside, all right? This is just a very simple 25-liter hiking pack. The color is called Coyote, I believe, and that definitely fits with the terrain. It's the REI brand, the Trail 25 model. I've always been a big fan of these REI brands, but in addition, I do have a 2-liter hydration pack installed in it. I'm also going to be timing my mission to some bad weather that's coming in a couple days, and I'm doing that on purpose, all right? Again, remember, we go the hard way, all right? Rain, wind, thunderstorms, all that stuff does quite a bit to help with concealment, and there is the added benefit of that stuff making the environment a bit more unfriendly to drones. Since this mission has the potential for an opposing force with drone air support, we do what we can to negate as much of that as possible. Now, speaking of the rain, what you won't see in my loadout is a poncho or a raincoat or anything like that, all right? In this instance, that is an unnecessary comfort item. And rain out here at this time of year, it's not going to be the kind that risks any bad temperature drop, all right? In fact, the cooling effect is probably going to be welcome. I do have a dry bag here that I can unroll, and I can carry my, sensitive electronics and stuff inside my pack. But for myself, I'm not worried about being wet, all right? It won't affect mission performance at all, and the more dirt that sticks to me, the better for my own concealment. Beyond that, I do have some, I do have a small thing of first aid elements. Mostly it's just a little boo-boo kit. This being a desert, water is the main concern. Now I have the 2-liter hydration pack, and I'm also taking another 2-liter bottles to drink on the way. There is a little bit more that I have out pre-positioned at the OP, but I have to replenish that anyway. So I'll be drinking that on arrival and leaving the fresh stuff for next time. Likewise, I already have some optics stashed out there, but I do carry a small spotting scope just for close-in tactical use. For comms, I do have my Baofeng GMRS radio. I think this is the GM21, I believe. This isn't mine exactly. This is a team asset for the rest of the group. And yeah, I will have a support element not too far away for the duration of this mission in case I am in trouble. For them, they're just out on a nice family outing for some desert camping and varmint bow hunting, all right? So the other purpose of the radio is to monitor the comms of the solar plant personnel and also those of a nearby mine that still has a small crew because I think it's going to be reopening soon. I do know their channels, and as I said, I've been out here plenty of times before. All right, if there's any opposing force to deal with here, it's probably going to end up being them, I'm sure. And I like knowing that while they can talk to each other, they can also talk to me. All right. I will be packing my drone, and that is partly for your future viewing pleasure, but it's also a mission critical component in this case. Most of the recon work consists of getting massive amounts of footage and information to look at and evaluate later from the comfort of an office, okay? We don't try to solve mysteries in the field. We just collect as much visual and informational data as we can, and then we leave, all right? Analysis happens later. And the more data we get, the better. So I'll be doing a lot of flights across the entire area to pick over later for anything that might stand out. Next is pretty much, there's normal EDC stuff. I carry a Gerber multi-tool on these runs. It's the Gerber suspension. It's an older tool, but I love it. It's fine. I'm not carrying my Leatherman on this one. I also have my ever-present little folding knife. Okay, we got pen light. Got to have a pen light. And then my secondary will be worn inside the waistband. Beyond that, I have my gloves, the hydration pack, like I said, extra socks, all right, always extra socks. There's some wet wipes, you know what those are used for. I do wear my old Timex Ironman watch, and I have a little muff over it to prevent reflections. A small, tactical pen. Well, this is one of the Fisher Space pens, and a little Write in the Rain notepad to record my observations. And, that's kind of it. Petzl headlight, with a red combat light function. Very light, very fast. A lot of people tend to take too much stuff when going out on a mission, all right? But beyond a few things for contingencies like first aid and stuff, you should only carry what you actually need to do the job you're there to do, all right? My job over the next 2 days, 3 days isn't to have a relaxing nature hike and a fun camping experience, all right? My job is to go out and observe activity around a target location and record what I see. That's all. That's all I'm there for. That's all I should be doing. All right. As they used to say, I don't have to like it. I don't have to enjoy it. I just have to do it. All right. But to be fair, I like it too. Now, I don't mean to keep you in too much suspense, but I won't be telling you about where I'm going in this video. All right. Broadcasting such information before actually going on mission is a huge no-no. All right. You'll just have to wait for the video that follows this one, and then you'll find out, the next Wasteland Spotlight. I will say this, okay? You haven't seen this place before. Definitely not the inside, at least. You may have seen the outside, but as far as the inside, few have seen it, and nobody has put the video out that I know of. I'm not really expecting this recon to come to anything. Most never really do. But but it should be interesting all the same, all right? It'll probably just be a case of some other explorers out there using drones to film what is actually a very cool bit of desert southwestern history. But if you don't hear from me again, then you'll know it turned out to be much more exciting than all that. So till next time, my friends, stay safe and stay ready. It's a wasteland out there.